Hello, BookTube. All right, we're back for more 7,000 Q&A answers. And we are starting with Jessica W. Seeing as us parents are all homeschooling now, are there any topics you think would be great to teach kids that maybe aren't taught in schools? Civics, how government actually works. And in a representative government, the duties of a citizen. Civics is not taught in schools anymore, and it badly needs to be. Start right away. Start as soon as children can understand that they are part of a government. Then start teaching them right away to avoid an uninformed electorate, because uninformed electorates will be the death of us all. Uh, let's see here. Brett Sakari says, I have heard you say about a lot of writers, John Updike, Martin Amis, Borges, for example, that though you detest their fiction, you love their nonfiction. Are there any writers for whom the opposite is true? I'm not sure I've ever said I detested Borges' fiction. I shouldn't let that fly. Writers whose nonfiction you hate, but whose fiction you love. The one that comes to mind is Marilyn Robinson. But I'm not sure that hate is the right word. Although a lot of her nonfiction grates on me. I could probably use the word hate. Gunwitch72 says, this is a weird question and I'm not sure it will be well construed. But here goes. Change in the standard storytelling structure is essentially what I think I'm curious about. Will we ever see a paradigm shift in storytelling? Do you see one? It seems they all start slow, climax, then end. I know for eons this is the structure, but is there any room for change or need to change? If this doesn't make sense, please delete and replace with, what is your favorite color? My favorite color is red. And your question doesn't make sense to me. Basic storytelling. You lay out the materials, the elements, then you tell the story. Then the story has a point, and then you stop telling the story. The reason why that's been around since campfire days of pre-humans is because there isn't any other way to do that, nor would you want there to be any other way to do that. The beginning elements of a story give you a reason to care about it. The climax gives you the emotional payoff of listening, and that's that. Then you repeat ad nauseum. So I'm not sure what other. I wouldn't want any other model to take that place. If it isn't broke, don't fix it. And this has been this way for 80,000 years. Sarah Hall says, "Hi Steve, do you listen to popular music? If so, who are some of your favorite artists and your favorite songs?" And in a situation like this, I always just default to all John Philip Sousa all the time, because I love John Philip Sousa, or the Baroque. The Italian Baroque. I could listen to that music forever and ever and ever. But in terms of popular music, I do listen to it. Of course, I do listen to it. And the kind that I tend to like most is country music. Glenn Campbell, George Strait, Reba McEntire, Dolly Parton. Even Garth Brooks, a really great Garth Brooks song comes on, and I am just smiling from ear to ear. They're purely enjoyable for me. So it's not all John Philip Sousa all the time. And then let's see here. Tyler Curtis says, with American nationalism on the rise, some opponents have retorted that there are in fact many nations within the U.S. As someone who has traveled extensively, do you believe that the U.S. is a proper nation state? Is American an authentic nationality? Well, I know what you mean. I mean, technically, in the realistic, technical sense, there are nations within the United States, nations that the United States government has defrauded and penned up. They're independent, representative republics before the United States was. The United States made treaties with them over the years, saying we recognize that you are an independent republic, and we will abide by the terms of this treaty, and then immediately broke the terms of the treaty. All of those treaties were broken at gunpoint, and those nations still exist. And but I know what you mean, because America is so divided. It's so socially divided. Amazing when you think about it, because the person who became president in 2016 said that he was going to unite the country. It's kind of amazing that we're so divided. It's almost like he had a hand in it. But in terms of general American qualities that transcend those divisions, I think there are plenty. I think if you talk to a European, and you talk to 10 Europeans that don't know each other, you very quickly get a composite idea of Americans' national qualities. You won't always like what you hear. Americans are well known for national qualities that I think transcend a lot of partisan divisions. We tend to think that the world is America. We tend to want our own way. We have a lot of the qualities that have always been associated with the inhabitants of whatever happened to be the most powerful nation in the world at the time. A lot of those qualities can be transposed almost without change to the citizens of Victorian England or ancient Rome. A lot of the qualities are the same, a kind of a weird combination of provincialism and braggadocio that again, if you were to ask 10 Europeans what their opinion of Americans are, describe an American for me, they will all start to act and sound pretty much the exact same way. I've been in that position where people didn't know I was an American, where I was speaking their language without an accent, and I would just casually bring up in conversations of, what do you think of Americans? What are they like? How would you describe a typical, act for a minute like a typical American? I've done that everywhere, just everywhere, in tiny towns in Poland and Germany and Austria and France and northern Spain, and it's uncanny, damningly uncanny, how similar the stuff you will hear will be. So we must have some national qualities, yes. Marcus asks, who do you think or who do you want to be the next big bad in the MCU for the Avengers to face? That refers to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And for me, I don't have a want in this, and I'm not going to see it. For me, the Marvel Cinematic Universe had a perfect, unbelievable, utterly unprecedented arc. Nothing like it had ever been done in Hollywood before. And I don't know that anything like it will ever be done again. The arc, starting at Iron Man and going all the way to the last Avengers movie, was unbelievable. Just the more I think about it, the more amazed I am that even the mega amounts of profit that it represented could have allowed it to happen. But it did happen. And it had a beginning, and it also had an ending. The end of the Avengers Infinity War was perfect. It brought the whole thing. I know there were little plot lines that straggled on past that ending, but Tony Stark's final moment in that movie and his funeral, for me, ends the arc of the Marvel Cinematic Universe that I care about. The Marvel Cinematic Universe that's going to follow from that point, I think, is probably going to be riven with identity politics. Just riven with it. And so I believe it will start to attract massive concerted opposition among its fan base, the way Star Wars has, the way Doctor Who has, the way you name it has. So that it won't be possible anymore to bank on $1 billion Marvel movie. It won't be possible to assume that anymore. There's an amorphous group of people who have taken a great deal of affection at bashing any new mainstream property as being too woke. They call themselves the fandom menace, and it's my opinion that most of them are grifters. They don't care about this stuff. They're never going to go to see it one way or another. You could tell them that it was an all-male cast gazing longingly at football reruns, and they still wouldn't go. They're not invested in it. They just claim that they are because they know that's where the outrage clicks come from. They want their channels to grow in order to, I don't know, in order to finance their lifestyles or whatever. I think most of them are grifters. I don't believe them when they express their outrage. But there are a lot of people who have that reaction and aren't grifters. Yours truly, for instance. I cannot stand some of the changes that have been made for obviously political reasons. For the reason of appeasing modern day 21st century puritanical censors. Censors of all kind must be fought at all times in every way, on small arenas and large ones. They must never be appeased even a little. You have to root them out like rot in a garden, or it will just grow. They will win if you don't root them out. You can't ignore them. And I think that the next phase of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I think you can tell even now, just from looking at it in the advanced drawing board stages, that it's going to be entirely that. And whether it is or not, it's not going to involve a Thor that I recognize. It's not going to involve Captain America that I recognize. It's not going to involve Iron Man. It's not going to... that whole original project is over. So my involvement with it is over. So I could look at that original arc of 20-something movies and say, well, gee, I wish they'd got around to Kang the Conqueror. For instance, I wish they'd done the Juggernaut in the Marvel Cinematic Universe or something like that. But I got a lot. I got Baron Mordo. I got Dormammu. I got Ultron. I got Thanos, even though I think he's kind of a boring villain. I got him anyway, and he was done really well. I would like some other comic book villains to show up, but I'm not waiting for it. In an ideal way, again, if you were to come over to Hyde Cottage and we were to sit over wine and calzones and talk about this until the wee small hours, we could imagine a Marvel Cinematic Universe that took place with the same vision, the same perfectly constructed arc, but without the huge lawsuits that splintered Marvel's intellectual properties to the four winds. Imagine a Marvel Cinematic Universe that had the X-Men and the Fantastic Four. Imagine if the first arc, the huge first arc, was building up to Galactus wanting to eat the Earth. Or imagine if the whole first arc was the Hulk against the Marvel Universe, a rampaging, mindless monster of the Hulk. That actually happened in an early issue of the Fantastic Four, and always threatened to happen in early Marvel comics, where the Hulk might just go on a rampage. He might lose control completely, in which case all the heroes would have to band together to try and stop him. You can imagine storylines like that had the X-Men, that had the Fantastic Four, that had Galactus. But in terms of what's coming, I'm not all that interested, so I don't have a pick. And Orthia NZ asks, this is the last one. Oh, all right, okay, so we're done. Orthia NZ asks, how can we ensure that future generations are not so vulnerable to misinformation that healthy ministers have to seriously debunk health advice like injecting bleach to ward off COVID-19? All right, we're ending on a downer here. There are two ways. One I've mentioned already, which is to teach people civics. Teach them their civic responsibility. Teach them citizenship. Teach them to be involved and to be an intelligent electorate. An ignorant electorate will be the death of us all. An ignorant electorate will vote against its own self-interest. So you will not have health insurance. So you will not have climate protections, because an ignorant electorate will have voted against those things, even though it hurts them. So you want a smart electorate. That's one way. And another, more specific way would be a result of that, which that an informed electorate would not elect a racist, sexist, fascist, lying moron who thinks that injecting bleach is a good way to fight a viral infection. An informed electorate wouldn't be able to do that. So that is the silver bullet. Teach people civics, and then make sure they vote. Make voting as easy as possible. Online voting, for instance, or paper ballots. Dispense a paper ballot to everyone at the beginning of every year. Teach them. Maybe the ballot could come with a pamphlet with profiles of every candidate at every level of government and links to their websites, stuff like that. Whatever you need to do. I wish the governments would do that. It's in their own self-interest to do it. So I don't know why they don't. But anyway, that ends our 7K Q&A, and that's good, because I'm just about to make a video calling for questions for our 7.1K Q&A. Because we got there awful fast. And you people, I bet, will still have great questions. These were a lot of fun. So I'm going to wrap this up. Good Lord, that's lots of videos. But I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.